This coming Monday, Istanbul once again serve as the stage for a diplomatic performance of extraordinary significance. Foreign ministers from across the Muslim world, including Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, Pakistan and Indonesia, will gather at the invitation of Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, and their aim to assess the fragile ceasefire in Gaza and discuss what Fidan has called the second stage, the creation of a stability force to secure and sustain the truce. This meeting is not spontaneous, it's the continuation of a process that began in New York in September, when Donald Trump met with the same ministers on the fringes of the United Nations General Assembly to launch his so-called Gaza peace plan. That plan, hastily assembled but surprisingly effective in halting the fighting, left unresolved the central issue of Hamas's disarmament, Israeli withdrawal and the governance of Gaza once the guns fall silent. The Istanbul gathering is, in effect, an attempt to fill in these blanks to create something resembling a political architecture for the ceasefire. Hakan Fidan has been candid. We must evaluate our progress and discuss what we can achieve together in the next stage, he told reporters in Ankara. Behind that careful phrasing lies a more urgent concern, whether the ceasefire can survive at all. In recent days, there have been new Israeli strikes in northern Gaza and renewed Hamas attacks in retaliation. The balance between peace and relapse into war remains perilously thin. Turkey's ambition, as Fidan sees it, is to transform his role from broker to guarantor, and Ankara wants to participate in a multinational monitoring force, a presence that would in theory deter violations by either side and symbolize Muslim unity under international supervision. Yet this is precisely what Israel refuses to countenance. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has made clear his opposition to any Turkish military or security involvement in Gaza, calling Ankara's stance hostile and warning Washington that he will not allow Turkish troops to set foot in the Strip. This diplomatic friction is part of a much wider quarrel. Turkish President Erdogan has been one of Israel's fiercest critics since the Gaza war began 2 years ago. He's accused Israel of genocide, suspended all trade and air links, and compared Netanyahu to Hitler, language that guarantees outrage in Tel Aviv but earns applause across much of the Arab and Muslim world. Erdogan insists that Israel's campaign is an assault on humanity itself, and that silence from Western nations, like for example Germany, is complicity. Just this week, standing beside the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, he lambasted Berlin for what he called its moral blindness. Israel, he said, uses bombs, famine and genocide as weapons, and Germany pretends not to see. For Erdogan, the Gaza question has become a moral test for the entire West, a test that he believes Europe and America are failing. In this context, the Istanbul meeting serves several intertwined purposes. It's a demonstration of Muslim solidarity, a diplomatic challenge to Israel, and a subtle assertion of Turkey's claim to regional leadership. Erdogan wants Istanbul to be seen as the center of gravity of any future Palestinian settlement, a counterbalance to the American-led negotiations that often exclude Muslim voices. But the practical agenda is formidable. The ministers will need to discuss who exactly will make up the proposed stability force, how it would operate under international law, and how to ensure humanitarian access while avoiding Israeli obstruction. Fidan revealed that Turkey's 81-strong disaster response team remains stuck at the border, still awaiting Israeli permission to enter Gaza. That in itself is emblematic of the deeper impasse. Meanwhile, the Israeli Foreign Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, has doubled down, telling reporters in Budapest that Turkey's approach has gone beyond rhetoric, citing not only hostile statements but concrete economic and diplomatic sanctions. It is not reasonable, Sa'ar said, for us to let their armed forces enter Gaza, and we will not agree to that. In truth, the Istanbul talks are less about who enters Gaza and more about who controls the narrative of peace. The United States wishes to portray itself as the architect of the ceasefire. Trump even thanked Erdogan publicly for his help, while boasting that Turkey's army was more powerful than he lets on. Yet, Washington wants a limited Turkish role, humanitarian, not military. Erdogan, by contrast, wants the world to see Turkey as indispensable the bridge between Muslim solidarity and Western diplomacy. For the Palestinians themselves, this meeting offers a rare platform. Delegates representing both the Palestinian Authority and Hamas-linked political figures are expected to hold side discussions with Turkey, with the Turkish officials. There is talk of Ankara hosting preliminary reconciliation talks between rival Palestinian factions, a precondition for any post-war administration in Gaza. And whether that can succeed is another question. Unity among the Palestinians has always been the missing ingredient in every previous peace plan. Behind the formal communiques and photo ops lies an unmistakable sense of fatigue. 2 years of war have killed more than 68,000 Palestinians and turned Gaza into rubble. The Israeli public, still mourning the victims of the Hamas attacks in 2023, remains deeply divided over Netanyahu's leadership and skeptical of any arrangement that could allow Hamas to re-emerge. The United States, though publicly optimistic, is aware that the ceasefire rests on shifting sands. So, what might Istanbul achieve? Possibly a joint declaration of support for the ceasefire, a call for humanitarian corridors, and an endorsement of the idea of a multilateral or multinational stabilization mission, though the details remain unresolved. Symbolically, however, it may mark the moment when the Muslim world begins to coordinate its diplomacy rather than merely react to Washington's agenda. To this end, this meeting is about far more than just Gaza. It's a reflection of Turkey's evolving identity, a NATO member that confronts Israel, an Islamic power that still seeks entry to the European Union, and a state that uses moral outrage as an instrument of policy. Hakan Fidan's language, balancing the practical with the impassioned, captures that duality perfectly. When the ministers gather on Monday overlooking the Bosphorus, they will do so under the shadow of immense expectations. They will speak of peace, of reconstruction, of a second stage. Yet behind every word will linger the same unspoken truth until Israel, the Palestinians, and their foreign patrons can agree not just to stop the war but to share the responsibility for peace. Every ceasefire will remain what it has always been: fragile, conditional, and temporary. And so Istanbul, the city where East meets West, once again becomes the place where ideals and realities will wrestle. Whether it produces progress or merely another communique will depend not on the eloquence of its diplomats, but on the courage of those willing to act when the cameras are gone.